spot. Are you ready to get started then? All right. Now we just need a motion to get started. All right.
You just get started, yeah.
All right, I'll make the motion to go ahead and begin there.
Perfect. Second that, we're good. All right. And then who would like to go first? We have, we have to do the minutes from last time too, right?
Yeah, so typically we look to see if there's any public comment, which there isn't today. No one signed up for public comment. Typically, you all would look at the minutes from last time and approve them, but since you.
I looked at them, but did you have a chance to take a quick scan?
I took a quick scan of them
Yeah.
and we could go in and make a motion to approve it. if you want.
Motion to approve minutes?
I'll second it.
Perfect, there we go.
And then,
Right?
and then typically before we begin our presentations, it's an opportunity for you all to provide some comments. If you all wanted to provide any introductory remarks before we present.
I mean, I'll just introduce myself a little bit. So Jamie Legay, nice to meet you. And I'm looking forward to being able to get to meet everybody, right? I know it takes time to kind of get around there. Some of my background in nursing, we were just talking about with evidence-based practice, right? And how that has really changes the game, right? For nursing as a profession and for who we treat in our patients. And in this case, we talk about evidence-based practice for education and for our teachers and what that does for them and how important that is, right? To not just new evidence and new ways of practice, but also how we've always been doing that we thought always worked and maybe it doesn't work when we don't. You know, and how important this is to everything that we guys, and how important it is to curriculum instruction. And I'm very excited about that piece of it. So that tends to be, usually when I have questions about, things, it is typically around what the evidence-based practice is about it and how is that being applied? Is there an obstacle? Because, we may have evidence-based with data, but that doesn't always mean that it applies the way we do it. And there's sometimes there's obstacles, and there's some ways that we as board members can help remove obstacles so things can run more smoothly. That's we'll be at that. So just be very, and I prefer just very open, honest communication. I don't feel like you have to do that. Right? That doesn't help anybody if we're doing that. Yeah. Any other questions for me that anybody has?
All right, very good. So I'm Cole Black. My background is human service. So, I'm in business. So, with that in mind, science is a big part of my background too. So, evidence-based education. As a group too, it is a big part of what we do. I believe in trying new things, seeing what works good and what doesn't work. Obviously, try and true is always good, but I think sometimes trying new things, people are scared to do. And I think sometimes taking a bold approach is what's needed to push the ball forward and better things for our students and our state for that CPS. So I'm looking forward to working with each and every one of you.
And Ms. Brennan, virtual?
Jamie, did you have anything you'd like to add?
Are you still there?
Or she's on mute.
Still see her there?
Mm-hmm.
We cannot move.
She's on mute.
Okay, well, if you want, we can go ahead and get
Yeah,
started.
let's
And
go
then
ahead.
if she's able to come online, then she can provide those comments then.
Sounds perfect.
Well, good morning. Once again, my name is Scott Murphy. We're two directors in the curriculum department. And we're really excited to welcome you to this curriculum instruction committee. First, we'd like to do some introductions. We have some standing members of the committee. And we also have other curriculum specialists and other staff who kind of rotate through as the year goes on. So we'll start with our standing members of the committee, which includes Dr. Bell and myself.
Hi, Keith Harris. I'm Chief of Equity and Organizational Development. And so equity-driven evidence informed practices and all of the professional learning for our school system and supporting the work of curriculum and all other departments.
I'm Angie Corrigan. I'm one of the instructional directors, school administration and instructional leadership directors. We rotate through each time, sometimes based on the topic, sometimes based on schedules, but there are 5 of us. One of the 5 of us will be here in attendance at each meeting.
We also wanted to introduce Janet Ingram, who's our executive secretary. who will be taking notes, and minutes from the meeting, and she's helping us kind of behind the scenes keep everything organized. So we all thank Ms. Ingram for her behind the scenes support to keep things moving. And then we have a team today who's going to be part of the presentations today. So while we're doing introductions, we'll go ahead and start with you.
I'm Colin Beal, I'm the secondary science.
Good morning, my name is Elizabeth Healy. I'm the curriculum specialist for secondary English language. I'm Ralston. I'm already before specialist at William and Mary.
And so those are your two topics today. We're going to dig into English language arts and into science. And Dr. Bowen will share in a second sort of how we go through the year in the curriculum and instruction committee. But we're also very mindful that we're welcoming 3 new board members to this committee. Sure. So we want to make sure that we're helping you learn what we think is of the utmost important work of the system, which is teaching and learning. And so if you find us using technical terms as it relates to curriculum, if you find us using jargon or acronyms, please stop us.
Just let you know.
We want really to make these meetings meaningful for you and certainly answer any questions. So please make sure you call us on that. If we're using, sometimes curriculum can be technical, so if we're being overly technical or terms that you need more information on, just let us know.
We're very good at that.
So Dr. Cole will frame where we are in the year.
So in the agenda, we have framed this school year after the leadership pillars. So for 1, 2, 3. And we are jumping in kind of halfway through the year. We started in August, and so we spoke with the year. We've already done curriculum 1, we've done early childhood education, and along with early childhood, we've done our duty centers. We said those specialists came and updated ours, and I can get back to the time on that one. We also have professional learning with Dr. Harris's group on professional learning system. We've had dual enrollment and CTE. We've also had our fall course guide updates. We had a second marker course guide updates session in March, which will be here to be a part of that. We've also heard from world languages. We've had visual performing arts and health and physical education. So where we're jumping in now is with our English language arts and our science. And then you'll see the rest of the topics that follow that blueprint. So right now we're in that pillar 3 HQIM, okay, that CCR, which is getting us to college and career. So that's where we fall in the scope of the year. And so this is a great committee for you all to be a part of, because like we were saying earlier, this is kind of what we do with our students. So we're excited to be a part of it.
Absolutely. And is there anything, because I know I can go back and look at minutes and I can look at meetings, but is there anything that you think that we should pay particular attention to as we're going back into the historical record of the year for a little bit to kind of just get us caught up?
Yeah, we do. I would look at the first side updates just to get your, brain wrapped around that.
Okay.
And then I think that you're actually joining us at a really good time.
Okay.
Because we're getting into our science, math, and then you'll also be getting some program updates, like on the education program, that's coming in March, and so this is a really good time.
Okay, that's perfect. And I did, because the last one was, had health curriculum and all that. I had a quick question for it, but I figured maybe direct that question to the person who does that. Should I just email them or?
And you can copy me, or you can email me, and I can get that answer to you.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you.
And in fact, tonight, at tonight's meeting, there will be an action item for the board
Yeah.
to approve some new courses. Well, in addition to the flat item, in the evening, there were some new courses that we brought forward, and the CNI committee in November approved those, and now bringing to the full board for approval. So times throughout the year, there may be some things like that that the CNI committee approves, if it goes to the full board. One of those examples is tonight, from something that was approved back in November.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. The November meetings were attached. All right, perfect.
So you're ready?
Yes, let's do it.
We're gonna start with English language arts, which as we talk about the pathway of kids to college, we're ready to graduate. Literacy is obviously kind of the foundation, starting pre-K all the way through. And so I'm gonna turn it over to our curriculum specialists, in English language arts, both elementary and secondary level, as well as, again, welcome and thank Marie Carlisle for the Waverly Elementary School. Sometimes in this committee, we'll bring voices of teachers to the table, so you can hear firsthand on the ground. So that's how we'll approach this presentation today, and we'll start with English language arts. I think I'm turning it over to John. It was working before. This is very.
It's over.
Yes.
Trying
Right, right.
We're gonna be the first ones to find out.
There you go. And then you can have a troubleshoot it too.
And then, there you go.
It's weird.
What's that? My husband, like, disruptions and like,
That's true.
like, even the equipment's like, wait a minute, we're doing what today? Right? Like, all right, sorry.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
If his son is delayed in the early elementary test, I don't think you're.
So back on track, we're going to first talk about some of the guiding tenets of our work. And if you take a minute and read our vision that we wrote in 2019 as we began this journey to implement science index.
Part one, no, for literacy and for math and applying.
So mental space, that's a phrase in our vision.
Yep.
And the goal really is we want all students. It is and one of the ways that we do that is we apply science of freedom. So the science of reading is a comprehensive body of research, not something that we teach. This research encompasses years of scientific knowledge, as well as evidence-based practices. That's where the things that you walk into a classroom that you should see that align with the science of reading include that explicit systematic foundational skills instruction in K-2. Knowledge and vocabulary being built in all grades. Briefly. And also integrated oral and written language.
The other places we wanted to ground some work for you around literacy. Number one is the recent adoption of the literacy policy by the state board. You may be aware of, obviously, and you see some of the key components, and there's some timelines associated with that. That are somewhat short term, that, we've actually already been implementing. We feel that FCPS is pretty well positioned in many of these areas. But there's some other places in the policy that are more long term, particularly some pieces in the policy around retention of students when they're not reading proficiently by grade 3. That timeline is still a couple of years out, so we will have some work to do once the COMAR regulations around this policy are published. They have not been yet. That's how recent the policy is.
And some of that too is going to be the new superintendent state, right? Has put forth by third grade, if you're not at level or not proficient, then there has to be a discussion about whether holding the child back.
Exactly.
With parental approval, there's like a whole, so all of that is going to ultimately dovetail into this conversation.
Yeah, in fact, that's now written into this policy.
Okay.
That was adopted by the state board.
Okay.
What will come next are COMAR regulations that tell local school districts exactly how they have that. And then the next piece, another sort of anchor that's guiding our work, is the recent development and submission of a comprehensive literacy plan. This is a requirement of the blueprint that we submit a plan to the state. But, our hope is that it is actually a living, breathing thing that is our working district. So, yeah, exactly. So these are sort of the fundamental areas that are in our comprehensive plan that was submitted to the state. It is a 100-page document that is linked on the website.
And I've read through it a little bit. I don't think I've read all 100 pages, but I have gone through and tried to pick up some highlights.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But we'll share with you a few of the fundamental components of that plan.
And one of the components is the Senate Bill 734 legislation that requires districts to screen all students. So we have in SCPS a universal screening tool that provides supplemental instruction and monitor student progress.
Kids
So,
are 8 through 10, so some of this ain't familiar.
yes. Okay, so all kindergarten students through grade 3 are screened for reading difficulties using the DIBELS 8 assessment in the Amplified platform. All families are notified of the results 3 times a year. after each administration. Then we identified students who need that supplemental instruction. And if they're not making progress in tier one of our multi-tier system supports, then they would move to tier two and tier three supports. And we have progress monitoring in between the three benchmarks at the beginning of the year, middle of the year.
Those are the things I received, like supports and first and second grade level, and then not.
So the next topic is high quality instructional material. And this year with the state as well as SCPS, we've been very fortunate to have purchased some high quality instructional materials for grades K through 2. And this is our second year of implementation with open core reading.
I know lots of different stuff.
And we have, it is a comprehensive literacy program, which includes all of the components and standards for English language arts. It includes that explicit and systematic foundational skills instruction. And we also have a tool, personalized instruction called iReady.
I think that's even, some that's even available to parents in school. My question about the open court reading is just, I was also one of the parents that had to take the whole thing home, put all the books together for the teacher and do all the things.
Oh.
And my son, before open court reading was implemented, the all books the teacher, he was sending over the kid. The thing is, the teachers know their things, right? They know what they're in, they know, and all that. The kid would love that. So we could go through this book. He absolutely can't. Long, and so it just doesn't, now he likes other books that we have in the house, so he usually does. He does do that. It's also a lot of just, if we're thinking about sustainability, it's a lot of flow in it, right, with the paper, and it goes right into the, so that was not, it's not the, my issue with it isn't, it has anything to do with it, does it actually do the job? It does the job, right, it's just more of the application, right, and doing something that has to be thrown away, has to be bought every year, right? Like, what's that long-term cost to us versus if there's something that we could replace that with, the teacher can then, who knows their kids, can send them that little book and it comes back with a bag. That's how they did it over, if you work, I don't know if that's the same everywhere, or at Waverly, they do it that way as well. It's just, you do it that way. And also, anytime that you require, anything that requires volunteers is still hard to do. And every school has a different experience with volunteers. Right? Some can get volunteers, our school is pretty big in volunteers. A lot of other schools do. But then that means it requires a teacher. And that's,
It's a great point, and frankly, it's, I think, something we wrestle with in terms of,
so,
we do hear a lot from parents about the value of using a tool that students can mark on and highlight and write on, and, but your point about cost and volume and recycling is a good one. We also wrestle with how much print versus how much digital.
right, yeah.
And as well as the idea, you'll hear this EQIM term a lot.
Oh, yeah, it's high quality instruction.
Um,
Yeah.
But the idea that every student in the district is accessing the same text that's high level.
For data
at grade level.
purposes helps too, right? Because you know that at least if one variable, it's not a variable.
Right.
Everybody's getting the same set of books, like the same stories, the same, you know what I mean? So I get that from that perspective as well. It's hard. I mean, if my first, second, third grade are not writing new books, in middle school and high school you are, right? Because you want to entertain that data if you find something. But yeah, it's hard, right? You know?
Okay, in third grade, we have, or in our third to fifth grade, we are in our third year of implementation of H&H integration. It is also a comprehensive literacy program for tier 1 instruction, and you'll see third, fourth, and fifth graders also have consumed the textbook, and that means contract, that's just how the companies, they have, that was, the goal was, we want books and all hands, and evidence shows that when students are interacting with text, they are able to write and annotate the text. That's the consumables, and they also have a digital of that, you know, if they didn't bring the book home, that's that.
So is that how, because this might be part of my, because it's also experience anecdotal versus maybe how something is expected to be used, like, so perhaps the experience that kids are having is just being put in the right folder and things at home, so it's not something that's being annotated in the right? And if that is the intention of the book, if the intention is that they're in the classroom actually writing into it and annotating. So that might be some of the experience we're having, is because that's not.
And again, this program is standards aligned, content based, focusing on building knowledge. And again, in 3 through 5, they have access to the construction tool already. And we also have a keyboarding program called Engage in grades 3 through 5.
So we're going to shift to the secondary world, which includes middle school and preschool. And but you'll see a strong alignment between the 3 to 5 experience and the 6 to 8 experience, and that was done very intentionally by our textbook review committee to really think about what is the transition for students from 5th to 6th grade, and how can we also soften that transition for students to really set them up for success. And so we are in our first year of implementation for Into Literature, which is a high-quality instructional program. It's a comprehensive program that we are implementing in grades 6 through 8. And we've been really excited. Not only I have visited every single middle school ELA classroom we have at FCPS this year, and to get student and teacher feedback on the implementation of this program and have a workbook in front of them to see. Some of our students have not left any white space on the page because they're annotating so deeply. It's really inspiring and also exciting. And so not only is it a comprehensive program for Tier 1 instruction, but it also provides teachers some opportunities to consider Tier 2 supports as well when students may be struggling readers. It is standards aligned, content-based, focused on analysis of reading, writing, and language use. As we move through the standards and those analytical skills become sharpened, and the higher expectations for our students as we move through the secondary world. We also utilize a personalized instructional tool, which is iReady Reading. And on this committee, you'll hear a lot about iReady. It's not only a personalized instructional tool, but also an assessment tool that we use in FCPS. So it's very multifaceted and gives our teachers a lot of in-the-moment data about how students are doing and growing, or where they might need some additional support. Right now in high school, we just concluded the high school review committee to review high-quality instructional materials applicable to grades 9, 10, and 11. And so we're still in the process of that work. And so the textbook review committee has made a recommendation to move certain products forward. And I want to encourage you, as well as the community, that those materials will be on public display in February. And so they are open for public comment. And that's part of our textbook review process. Obviously, there are budgetary considerations with the purchase of additional HQIM for secondary ELA and for high school. And so we're just in the process right now. But our high school friends were very excited, those who participated on the review committee. And we had a good representation of, I think almost all of our high schools were represented by either a literacy specialist or a classroom teacher or assistant principal, which was really great. So, all right, so we're going to transition from HQIM, which is the term for high-quality instruction materials. And now we're going to talk about professional learning in our support to schools, because we serve a lot of students, all students, and we support a lot of teachers. So our work is multifaceted. We do a lot of pre-service professional learning for all of our teachers. That includes our new hires to FCPS, who may not be new teachers, new to education, but they're just new to FCPS. So we onboard them to our curriculum resources, our assessment strategies, et cetera. We also provide professional learning for our leaders in our system, including central leaders, principals, assistant principals, and literacy specialists, including full-day literacy specialist meetings that occur frequently throughout the year. We also are on site in our buildings frequently to provide job-embedded professional learning through the accelerated learning process. On this committee, you're also going to hear a lot about ALP. And so the accelerated learning process is really teacher-led teacher collaboration that is aligned to standards and student progress. And so we facilitate and provide resources for ALP to support teachers and their just being really strategic in their support for students and progress monitoring and knowing what to do next to support student growth. But we also make sure that our literacy specialists have a very diverse toolkit to then also support those teachers, especially when they're working with dynamic teams that include early career teachers and veteran teachers, right? And so our work is really focused on building the capacity of literacy specialists, that way they can be hands-on with students and with staff away. We also provide direct support to teachers, so sometimes it's a coaching conversation, me and the teacher. Sometimes it's a group of teachers, or it's me collaborating with a building principal to support teachers who need additional support. That work also occurs with the school improvement process, which is a team of teachers that are not only ELA teachers, but often reflect ELA work. And so you'll see, we have quite a list of what that direct support to schools looks like, because it's really multifaceted, and depending on the school, and depending on the time of year, that work can change pretty quickly. We also offer quarterly PLC nights and professional learning communities. This is something that our secondary friends have been very excited about this year. So essentially, we gather teachers, we give them an opportunity to sign up for 2 hours of collaboration time once a term, and it gives them an opportunity to have a common focus to collaborate with their colleagues across the system. And so they might target grading or planning, a variety of topics, but they've really appreciated that support. And then we also have periodic K-12 literacy specialist meetings to support articulation, because it's really important to us that our students receive early intervention when they may be struggling readers, but also have accurate placement, and that we are doing our part to remove any barriers to advanced coursework. And so we want to make sure that our specialists are supported in coaching students and families through that placement process, and doing the best that they can to serve those students.
And we, since 2019, have offered the letters course for teachers in the district, and we have, right now, 320 teachers enrolled and trained up to 900 teachers with the letters program. And this year, we have letters for administrators, we have Gilbert County this school year, schools and leaders.
And it's all volunteer, that, I think that was the hardest, trying to find success through the messenger as much as, something.
This is an example of the training requirement that now is in that Maryland literacy policy. So you'll see how this is an example of where it's pretty well positioned, because we took these steps early on, and now more of a requirement statewide that teachers have these.
I think that's a lot of teachers and staff that have enrolled in the courses that MSD is offering. And they can enroll. Staff members.
Social educators, like, I was curious about how, as pre-K is going to be introduced into, as the school, however it's going to be, right? That's still kind of feeling itself out. How is that, we're talking about 3 and 4-year-olds, say 4-year-olds, how's that going to look for the literacy program? We're going to try and start targeting 4-year-olds. I don't know, I'm just curious if that's a thought or conversation. Yeah. Yes. Also do listen to teachers
Now I'd like to introduce Lorraine Clark, who is a literacy specialist at William High School this year. But she's served 28 years in Frederick County schools and 9 years as a literacy specialist. So I've been very fortunate to be working with Lorraine in the past 6 years that I've been here in this. She's going to share some information.
I just really wanted to highlight how ALP or ALP is like the heart of the academic life. Like everything that we truly want to grow the teachers and the students, it all starts in those weekly meetings or those bi-weekly meetings with our teachers, so that they have time to look at data and be prescriptive, so that they have time to grow and really work as a team. And so camaraderie is a big avenue of student success, because we want students to have equity, right? And so a great way to bring that about validity in a way that allows them to be prescriptive and independent, but also very on the same path, the same learning goal for our students. So just some things. I've noticed growth with teachers, just being able to use the high quality instructional materials. So they study the material, they learn it, they have an aha moment of, oh, I didn't know that, particularly about the science of reading, when it's related to like the roles of phonics and those type of things. So to see teachers grow on their own just by using these materials is wonderful, because they're discovering it on their own, and then they use the guide, but also can put their own twist on it as they grow, as the years go by. So that's so powerful. Another thing I wanted to highlight is the letters course. I have only heard positive vibes for all the teachers, regardless of their years teaching or service to the county, taking letters, like the excitement, I want to try that in my class, or again, aha moments. So it's something that is required, but it's appreciated. And I wanted to highlight how valuable letters is for the veteran teachers who've done it for so many years to have validation, but also for the newer teachers for personal growth. So it's just so important to highlight.
And I imagine it makes those quarterly meetings of collaboration even more important, because everybody's getting to see material over a quarter and have a chance to use it. You know, they can collaborate together, whether it's on the curriculum piece of it, and also how that's actually been thinking about it. But, you know, for the teachers, you know, like, yes, it's so powerful. I was curious, I was talking to Karen Yoho about the Alpha program. I think that's one of Dr. Marco's initiatives, right? And so can you explain to me, so I have a little more clarity on it, how that, is it a number of, you said it's 1 or 2 meetings every week?
It depends on the school, very much so, yes, in the scheduling process.
And there is a process to it, right? First it's the data, and then it goes through, I think, is it a 6-step process?
Definitely,
Yeah,
yes, I
six
wish I
steps.
had the visual, and I'm sure we can provide that to you, but truly, we want to make sure that teachers understand the standards and clarify all the language that gives us the overarching guide to what we're going to do. Clarify that together, make sense of the standard. You know, where might there be misconceptions for students? Where are there misconceptions for teachers? Then we use that to design our instructional design, and that's kind of where I really talk about the camaraderie of the team. You know, like, this is our goal, this is what the HQM stands for, and then how are we going to deliver that? How are we going to meet the needs of our very, very diverse learners? And so a lot of that is really thinking about our students that are new to the language, our students that are, you know, have some roadblocks in their learning, so to say. So we just have to really use that time to think about all students. How do we enrich? How do we enhance? How do we provide supplemental instruction? So a lot of the ALP is designed in all of those pieces. And the way we stay together are through common rubrics, or the way we can stay together is through common texts. The common texts have been incredible, because teachers aren't using their time to find the resources that they need. It is provided. And as someone that's been in the county for a while, like, you know, it has been that there were times in the past where we've had to find texts, and that we don't want our time together looking for a text. We want to use that time. Then using the data to plan for next steps after we have instructed and taking evidence of instruction. The most important thing in the schools, I think, is really aligning the expectations with classroom instruction. So, you know, if writing about reading is very important for career ready, then we want to make sure that students have opportunities on a regular basis, especially at Waverly. Students benefit from routine, and so having that routine to see growth over time really builds the personal development of the students' intrinsic motivation as well. Yeah.
I actually follow it from the elementary school on Facebook.
Okay, it's a fun one to follow.
So as a PTA person, I would just go out and like scope out other schools.
Oh,
Right? Like, I want to see, I want to know. I just never run a PTA before, so it's part of my research. One thing I love about Waverly and some of the other Petaluma schools, it's sort of a community we built with parents, right? So when parents, there was even one that was about car seat safety. and nutritious, right, that there's, you guys have that, and so I had discussed this with my PTA folks last year, and I kind of want to pick this back up again, but there seems to be, and I know for a lot of parents who are new to the science of reading as well, like, to me, this is old hat, I learned about reading in the eighties, and this was basically what we did, right? And then it changed to that human method and everything else, and so a lot of parents were not sure how to effectively help their kids with their reading at home and with their writing at home. And some of that is just, they just, maybe they just didn't ask that question to the teacher, or maybe the teacher gave them a response, and maybe they didn't understand the response, whatever it was. But I think at Waverly, you do have some of that you teach to them to help the parents understand, I believe, with the instruction. And I'd like to see more of that at all of the schools, that there's more, bringing the parents into that concept, that they can, we're not at home with them, we don't know, they can at least give them the information about how best practices for parents through what you're doing, to supplement also what you're doing in the classroom, right? Like, that's, parents have a responsibility. Yes, I like to see if we can do that. I might get Nigel, the president of Credit County, yeah, and there might be room for someone for her to talk to about that much less. Okay. Mary's mother. Get more friends support from you guys.
Was there anything else you wanted to share with committee, Carla?
My notes are.
And
If there's any questions though.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about the AOP program too.
Yes.
So I'm just trying to understand it from what I learned about it, which was very brief, right? So there is a step process here, right? 6 steps, and then there's a completion, I don't know how there's a certificate or whatnot. Is there any barriers? Is there any, do teachers fall off of that 6 steps due to some other things that are done during the school year?
But more of it's a cycle.
It's a
It's
cycle.
an ongoing, so like when one thing ends,
Yeah.
you move on, but you're never forgetting the previous. So it's
Right.
all integrated.
Okay.
So it goes all year round.
Okay.
And then the following year, we use the previous year's data to make best decisions for our school improvement team and for our grade level team. So think of it as like an ongoing.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yes,
Yes.
and to think about it, like less as a very beginning and end, that it's just constantly ongoing. The other way we talk about it in FCPS, when we talk about the HQIM and curriculum, it doesn't mean one size fits all in every classroom in the county.
Right.
When we talk about being evidence informed, it means that we're adjusting instruction for that classroom of students. Classroom students at Waverly, is going to be different than a classroom down the hall, and so, down the street. So that team of teachers who go to the kids' desk and have the data in front of them, and know the instructional moves that those students see in the moment, that's the power of that team of teachers engaged in the cycle. And it really is essential, because we can have great curriculum and high-quality instruction material, but it really takes those adjustments, as was just described, to make it come alive for kids.
Absolutely, and it's the thing that computer or an AI can never replace, right? It might be able to pull data together and pull together a reading material and an instructional material that can never replace teaching. There's all the things that I have, and also the assessment. You're constantly doing assessments of your kids as you're getting the material, right? So, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, for teachers to learn from each other, because teachers need that support in the same way that students need that support, and teachers need that differentiated learning type style in the same way that students do too. So I see that so much that benefit from this time, and the process of ALP keeps it from going in so many different directions, because we wear so many hats that it really keeps us focused on the end goal.
Harder for someone that accidentally go on the tangent around people. You can bring each other back.
Yes.
Well, thank you again for being here after two snow days and a dry morning. But, hearing firsthand your experiences at Waverly just really has a lot of value, so thank you. Before we transition to science, this is your chance to ask me more questions as it relates to English and darts, or maybe if it's better than asking.
Just hop in there, because I don't want to. Do you guys have any barriers or anything that you find that you would want the board to know about and to understand, so that we can either help ease something, or when we're looking at a policy for anything? I mean, I'm just trying to think of anything that you guys might have that you wish we knew that we don't.
Great question, and thank you. I think we touched on it. that Maryland literacy policy is a big deal.
That is huge.
And so, our implementation of that as a district over the next several years will be something we'll be coming to the board with.
Yeah.
And I think there'll be many further conversations to come about operationalizing that in our district. Mr. B mentioned the high school work that's underway and, some budget, obviously, we're in a difficult budget season once again.
Yeah.
And, you know, as we consider curriculum programs and textbooks, obviously, in today's market and with inflation, they are expensive. And it really requires a significant investment in our district. So as we have budget conversations, you'll be hearing more about that as well.
Absolutely. I mean, that, you know, our inflation piece may have changed, but that just gets eaten up very quickly by other things.
And I also want to say that, you know, if you look at the budget, the importance of roles like lines and the buildings is so important. You know, that we maintain.
Because you lost a few, I think, and had you moved us to other places, right? Mhm. Do you have literacy specialists who are starting more than middle school right now? Or?
Well, my teacher specialist, Lisa Halvis, serves the entire district. She's here today. And then each school has at least one literacy.
But at least each.
Right now, in elementary.
Okay. That is a lot of schools, right? And so we had the plan then for like school 41. Hopefully enough in the budget for hiring and student, right? And we think we all do. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all the work that you guys are doing. And Waverly is amazing school. One of the teachers, Amy, I just wish I could have her there. She loves it.
Does it seem like his friends are there, Jen?
Yeah.
I'm still here. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Brennan, did you have any questions or otherwise we'll move to science?
Nope, please move on to science. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you again, Ms. Carlisle. for your time.
Yeah.
Let's make sure. I also understand processes, because that's ultimately making a decision on the result of something, like how do you get it? I like to understand that piece.
Of course, well,
Yeah.
okay, our science presentation, this is organized in elementary science and secondary science. Different approaches, different things going on, so we're gonna package it that way. Our curriculum specialist for elementary science and social studies is ill today and unable to be here, so I'm gonna pitch it. And have a clicker. And just starting with curriculum, is it not working again?
I turned it on, I turned it off, and it's flashing green.
Do you remember what the trick was before?
No, what did you just take this out and put it back in?
Oh. Where is the presentation?
I don't know why it didn't come up.
Okay.
There we go.
Is-
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
So,
Nowadays, running, this is design.
yeah.
Those are the questions I have.
Okay, so we'll do the best we can. But just in terms of summarizing elementary science, you know, this is something that comes up a lot. I'll just start off by saying the challenges that we have around time in elementary school.
Yes. Oh,
When can we actually find time to teach science and social studies while also doing all the other things that we want to be able to do in the elementary day, like reading and enjoyment of the arts and physical education, extra support when kids need it, and the list goes on. So our science and social studies in elementary school is probably written. Is organized currently by the semester.
Yeah.
Where
which is every day.
And that's where I wanted to lead off with, is that we're sort of in a state of flux right now in our district in terms of when and how long science and social studies are being taught, and connecting it back to what we were talking about with elementary language arts.
Yes.
Because there's so much content building happening in English language arts, in science, in social studies, kids are reading about scientific concepts, kids are reading about social studies concepts in the English language arts curriculum that are relatively new. There's opportunities for more seamless integration and sort of reworking of the elementary schedule. The other thing that you'll hear a lot about with the blueprint is, the elementary, schedule in general, schedule good on time in general, this notion of what we refer to as 60-40 at a teacher's day, 60% being teaching students, 40% being collaboration, tutoring, all the other things that happen. All of those things are coming together to really take a hard look at the elementary schedule, middle and high as well. And then social studies and science continues to play into it. So just to let you know that our current state of 45 minutes and semesters of science and social studies is changes underway, and we're looking at different options for the future. But that is a current state that's been in place for a few years. What kids experience is here on the slide in science, which is really a hands-on approach, really trying to build vocabulary, and finding the PDL that you just mentioned, multiple ways for kids to access the scientific concepts as they learn. The other thing that we really try to do more of at the elementary level, particularly with science, is start to build career awareness early. So when students in elementary school are starting to have understanding of what excites them, what they're good at, what they start thinking about in terms of career paths. A couple of years ago, we did adopt a supplemental textbook that's used in science, published by National Geographic. You'll hear us talk a lot about summer curriculum work that happens every summer. Every summer, teams of teachers come together to define a curriculum and make sure that we have good resources for students, as well as teachers. And I just talked about the semester-based schedule. And the ongoing work that I just sort of mentioned is the standards, the national standards, the state standards, call us to bring together not only the science content, but engineering practices, core ideas of science that span across, as well as, like we said earlier, integrate literacy. So that's work that's underway, that's work that's ongoing, and that as we kind of go through different content areas in this community, we're hearing more about all these different connections. There's also the assessment piece to think about, particularly with the state assessment. There's the MESA, the Maryland Integrated Science Assessment. Students take it at the end of grade 5, but it's kind of a culmination of grades 3, 4, and 5 when they take that assessment at the end of 5th grade. So that's sort of what we're mapping to with the elementary curriculum. And we have local assessments that are developed in FCPS.
So we're teaching to a test? Is that what we go?
Hope not.
I mean, that's what it sounds like.
Well, it's also is the test, so the test is maybe if you explain that a little bit, right? What is the test actually testing for, right? In terms of, it said it's cumulative effect, and you're talking about up to 5, they're not quite doing all the lab reports yet, right? Or are they? Where there's, I guess that's the question, right? What is it, that's so much teaching to the test, or is the test sort of assessing?
What is that actually?
I'm gonna let Ms. Beal help me with that in terms of, really, she's our subject matter expert in science. But I do want to address Mr. Black's question, because it's good. You want to have students engage in science, enjoy it, think about career stuff, like I just said earlier, hands-on. Knowing that there's this state requirement at the end of 5th grade, it is a benchmark for us to kind of see where kids are before they go to middle school. I'll let Ms. Beal explain a little bit more about the test itself.
Sure. And so the MESA it assesses the standards. And so, and what I always say to our teachers is teach the standards, don't worry about the test, teach the standards. So the test itself is in 4 sections, and it is a combination of like selected response and multiple choice. It also has tech enhanced items, like drag and drop, and like hotspots, and all of that different kind of things. It also has in each section, so you have like 8 questions, and then you have And what we would have learned as like a constructive response. So it gives you a scenario and you answer that. And this is all aligned to the standards. So that is one of my fears too, teaching for the test, because I really want them to teach the standards and don't worry about it. Because if you're doing great instruction and if the kid's fired up, they're going to be able to show what they know on the test.
And all that is like test design, to really
Right.
get that out, just to make sure it's not just, your design is right, so you're actually assessing what's being instructed or not, yeah. Yeah, I like that, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. The other thing that our team does a lot of, as you heard in the presentation, is the professional development at sports schools. We do have what we call a STEM leader in every school, that kind of becomes our point of contact to, not only help with information and the curriculum, but, make sure teachers have support they need to implement and let us know when they need more resources. One area where we also are really focusing on is early career teachers we have at SCPS. I forget the exact data this year, but we're hovering around a third of our teachers are within their first 3 years of experience. And so we're being very intentional as a district about making sure that those teachers in particular that are newer to the profession have really focused support pretty much in every content area and the same is true here.
Is that an average of the new teachers to CPS, or is that just really much higher?
It's escalated in recent years since the pandemic.
Yeah.
Um,
I was just curious because, if it's your normal, then that says one thing, but if you're also having to adapt to it, it's different. Teaching, you do manage that.
The teaching workforce has definitely changed, and that number of more of your teachers is increased.
Nursing has to, so I feel good there.
The other thing that we're really excited about being involved in the curriculum department are a lot of student-based programs. So we feel in our team supports Green Schools efforts in our elementary schools. We coordinate the field trips to the fair every year, so we have thousands of kids that come every year to the fair from elementary school that we have some lessons that take place at the fair. We do that each year, as well as the science and social studies fairs that happen every spring. And science lab, it's kind of one of a kind in our state, as well as our outdoor schools. So I'm gonna let Ms. Field take it from there with some of those other student programs and secondary science. Oh, I'll put her.
You can just like toss it to me.
I'm chaperoned to like the SSL. So, yeah.
And so,
I did the,
yeah,
Yes.
yes, you were stationed at
Yeah, I remember
Hershey
she was there
Pass.
once.
Awesome. And that was the first thing I was going to say is if you have not had the opportunity to visit our ESSL or Earth Space Science Lab, it's on the campus of Lincoln Elementary. And it is, okay, so I have to preface that I'm a little biased, but it is state of the art. It's a museum quality. It's amazing. Our elementary students visit every year, and they have science lessons there. First, third, and fifth attend in the morning, second, fourth attend in the afternoon. We have a wonderful science team there, and we have things that they just don't have available in their classroom. We have planetarium, we have a telescope observatory, and we also have we have two main classrooms. One is the called the Blue Room, and it's based around the Chesapeake Bay and animals and just the hands-on learning. We just did a wonderful new exhibit this summer on the Monocacy River. Fantastic. Really, because not all of our students have the same opportunities that other kids do. And they might not, the Monocacy River is a big part of our ecosystem. And so we're introducing them there, and then our geology room is amazing. We have a cave room, stalactites and stalagmites. So the Earth Space Science Lab is an amazing student program. We have over 18,000 students. Actually, this year it's closer to 20,000. visited grades 1 to 5, and we have 1,200 parent chaperones, which we do enlist in the learning that is there. So when you come on out, you might be holding snake, helping with the horseshoe crabs.
Yeah, it was the crawfish. So it was the one that a lot of parents didn't want to do because they're like, oh, I mean, and crawfish everywhere. So like, I gotta do this. And teaching the kids, especially the ones who are a little bit scared, but getting them comfortable with handling animals, with doing things that they're afraid of, right? So it does, I don't know, it throws a lot of fear.
Yes, absolutely. And it also houses a living materials center. So we have all the animals that are on display, but behind the scenes, we have a technician who is sending out a nose to classrooms. Kindergarten, we're sending out isopods, so that's the roly-poly. So we're sending those out, and she's also sending out dirt, and she's culturing different organisms, and she's also an animal whisperer. So a lot of that is going out so that kids in the classrooms can be experiencing that. So there's a lot of things going on there. We are a growing county, and because we're not able to grow the ESSL at this time, we're discussing how do we meet the growing capacity with a budget neutral approach. Right, so we're looking at, are we going to have to prioritize certain grades? Like, how are we going to be able to continue to meet our growth? So those are some of the things that we're discussing now with ESSL.
Are they currently every day of the week, with student session, if they're currently in class coming into the ESSL every day, and there's always classes in there together?
Yes, there are always classes in there. Right in the beginning of school, like on day 1, no, because the kids, the teachers have to know their kids and everything like that, but very shortly after that, every day they have students in the morning and the afternoon. So they'll have kids this afternoon. They did not have them this morning because of the delay. But yes, and then on the days when students aren't there, we have Winterfest coming up. So on January 16th, when it is schools are closed for kids, they're having an amazing program there that they're showing all of the different movies throughout the day, open to the public, and you'll also be having science activities going on in the classrooms. And a couple nights a month, they open up to the public again and have evening shows. And also with of course, Mr. Murphy's going to come in soon because this is up on slide 1, right? And when we have the solar eclipse, they have a big activity that they partnered with the library.
Do you ever have high school kids that, I was gonna say, because you're also doing museum curation, you're doing, like, there's other aspects, other jobs and occupations out there that science is involved in, right? That y'all are doing it. It's kind of fascinating to bring high school students to mention.
We have high school students who volunteer. They volunteer in evening shows, and they are really wonderful on those big, like Winterfest, Spring Fling, all of that. All of the middle and high school teachers are always like, "Oh, can you come too?" And we would love to do that. And years ago, we had some 8th grade classes come, and also we have an earth-based science research class that we try to squeeze in to come there as well. It's just our primary focus is elementary, and we're having enough challenge to make sure that we're getting all of our elementary, but unfortunately, we don't have the capacity right now to regularly, because I'd love to have, where it fits with the curriculum, to have them come in.
I was thinking more that you would have the apprenticeship programs for businesses. We tend to think of that as, private businesses, come check out and see what occupations you could be involved in. But what occupations are going to be in government and the nonprofit world, in places that may not necessarily consider themselves to go sign up for an apprenticeship program at the high school, but students are going to be interested in that. And so having the students be there to help with the curation of materials, to help with the animal husbandry, because you also have that, and Anyone who wants to be a biology major, you're gonna get that $18 an hour job just taking care of the life. Like, that's gonna be, like, that is a thing, right? So there's a lot that y'all are doing there, and then even putting together, having to talk to the public and do a lot of what I did at the Park Service as an archaeology technician, when you had the public coming, you had to know like how to, take what was very scientific and very that language, and how do we speak to the public and fit into that. So I don't know, I think there might be room in that apprenticeship aspect, not just as a volunteer for maybe 200 bodies, but actually helping, I don't know, it's a thought. You do know how it works over there, I know, but it's a, I don't know.
It's a great
I
thought.
think,
Yes. We're the largest employer
Yeah.
in Frederick, and so we should be having those apprenticeship opportunities here.
And even and the kids that want to be, educators, right, also want to be educators, that's also an opportunity for them. Your outdoor school, I mean, West Virginia University has a whole outdoor major for folks, if that's what they do. Well, now you have the outdoor school. How do you integrate, so, I know, that's where my brain goes. Yeah.
Thanks so much. So with secondary science, you've already heard a little bit about next generation science standards. NGSS is what we call them. And it's just the standards that we align our curriculum to. Maryland State Science Standards adopted NGSS. It has those 3 domains, the disciplinary core ideas and content, the what. The science and engineering practices, the how we do science, asking questions, analyzing data, designing experiments, the cross-cutting concepts, big overarching theme, and scale, and systems, change, cause and effect. So all of those, and we talk about teaching science in 3D. That's what we're talking about. Don't teach it in silos. And the disciplinary core ideas, it's earth science, physical science, and life science. So instead of just memorizing some facts, and then in isolation, doing some experiments, and then talking about the why, we want to put it together. And that's how we're trying to design our instruction. With that, we have a variety of core courses. Science students take every year in middle school, and those are all aligned with NGSS, and it's a grade band 6 to 8. And then in high school, we have our core courses in which they're aligned to NGSS, and then we have a variety of electives. And I'll go through that a little bit in a slide or two of our sequence.
And we don't include the computer science. That's separate or?
So computer science falls under career technology education.
Okay. Things are just so integrated these days. I was thinking, like, a lot of the methods that you use all of this apply to where data and AI and all these things are going in the future.
Yes, absolutely. And just listed a couple examples of our electives in high school with forensic science, anatomy, physiology, that are in space science researchers. Mr. Murphy talked earlier about summer curriculum writing. It is a wonderful, it's one of my favorite things, is we have groups of teachers that come and help us revise our curriculum. Some of the things that we were working on this past summer, we were looking at the rigor and depth of courses and standards across grade levels, because maybe they look a little similar, because you could be looking at cell replication in middle school, and you're looking at it again in high school. Like, how much depth do you do? In middle school, you might be just talking mitosis. In high school, you're talking mitosis and meiosis. And so, and we have teachers who are really enthusiastic, and if we all go off on our little bird trails, but we want to make sure that we're doing it exactly, and we're doing the rigor appropriately of middle and high.
And that's the short ones. Every school and classroom is different. Every year of students is different. Right? Like, you can't compare, you really can't compare one year to last year. They've had different experiences. Yeah.
We're also looking at new materials called Open Science, which is an HQIM resources, and it's very hands-on, it's very inquiry-based, it's very phenomenon-based. We were looking at that, and how does that fit? Or do they have some good units that would teach those standards well, so we were looking at that as part of our curriculum development. We also, every summer, we look at our benchmarks, which is our local assessments, and we have a form set up, and we're constantly asking our teachers, and when they see problems, they are not shy. They tell us, so we base, we revise the benchmarks to continue to try to make them better, and to assess what we want them to assess.
Yeah, that's a difficult one. Actually, a teacher, she does observation, she helps with the observation teams, and she used, they used AI to upload all their observations and realized from all of the, because it was sorting that for them, right? So they could look at the different questions that they were trying to evaluate on, and realize that even as evaluators and observers, they didn't have the same perspective on what they were actually evaluating for each of those places, right? And they needed that ability to collaborate, but to really talk about those benchmarks and what they meant, to really help out the teachers as well, so.
And one of the things we did is we created anchor papers and student samples this past summer. It was funny because we had just revised our benchmarks 2 summers ago. So last year we did not have anchor papers, and we were starting to use AI. But AI is the most cheerful science student you'll ever run across.
Yes.
Because like they really love science, and it's not how kids would write,
No, it's
especially when they're doing a benchmark, right? Because they're not like, oh, science is the best. And being able to pull student samples and give that to our teachers, we've gotten really positive feedback this year and helpful. And of course, if we can make it better next year, absolutely.
AI is good for sorting material. Yeah, not for writing.
Some of the things that we're continuing to do with curriculum is continuing to emphasize that instruction by phenomena. And phenomena is something observable in the real world. And it sparks curiosity. So that's one of the things that I really love about science, is that we're always discovering new things. And again, I'm biased, but there's so many things you can be like, oh, well, how does that work? Isn't that really cool? Why is it doing this? Why do we put salt
It's
down
curiosity,
on the roads?
right? Yeah.
And that sort of thing. So that is what we're trying to connect, because like I love science, but not every child has that same enthusiasm, and we want to make sure that we continue to push them with that. We are infusing more disciplinary literacy into resources and instruction, because we want them to be able to do science and talk and write about it too, and read about science.
I was gonna ask how you're taking the standards from the literacy and because it's all applicable, right? Like all of that data is applicable. And that is one of my biggest questions with the elementary times, is why are we increasing math and reading and writing when perhaps what they need is the ability to just apply it to social studies and science, right? So I don't know, but is that something that you got I'm sure you've been doing it, but how does that look over the next year or two?
So one thing we've been doing, my ELA, science, social studies, math, we all collaborated this year on just like how does writing look across the content? Because that's the thing too, is like the kids are going from class to class to class, and we're all using different languages. So let's put it together. So we work together to have the rubric and what is writing look across. We have department chair meetings. We have 2 full-day department chair meetings. Ruben Dean came and talked a little bit about the science of reading and how to support kids in science classes with vocabulary or anything like that. We also, with NEPA, at the state level, we said, hey, everybody wants to improve their scores. Here's a sure way to improve your scores, how the kids write better. Because one thing that we're finding is that the students aren't answering the question. And they've lost their stamina for writing and everything like that, so we're trying to infuse that in science classes.
Writing is very different.
Right, and we're asking a lot of them because we want them to be hands-on, but we also want them to read and write. But that's what we do in science.
I mean, that's how we understand actually what we do understand.
Right.
In terms of science, is how we do.
How much of your science class is didactic hands-on versus how much is actually written? Do you have a ratio?
That's a really good question, and it varies too. It varies according to the topic, because some of the topics are, lend themselves much more to the hands-on than the reading and writing. So we just want a good balance.
Curious about your admin class. What would you guys do if you get cadavers for that section? That could be arranged. That could be arranged. If we can ever institute that, I promise you, we can get the state of that before on board.
What's your policy about that? That should be on the t-shirt. Policy
With high school graduation requirements, the 3 labs, so you have to take 3 lab sciences. And with that now, they're looking to make sure that you're well-rounded, because some kids, like I would have been, they would have gravitated more to the life sciences. But here, you have to take a course in earth science, life science, and physical science.
What's the interest in forcing that? I mean, I get the concept of well-rounded, that if somebody has an interest, why are we forcing that kid to go and take the class that they'd rather do life science, as you alluded to? Why are we forcing it?
Well, with that, all standards, all students, so they can really, if they double up, they can take all of their required courses, like freshman, sophomore year. And then they can branch out. And also, so I loved life science. But if I had never been exposed to earth science, I might be missing out. Because that's the whole thing too. So that's why we're doing well-rounded.
And that first bullet, Mr. Black, is actually from Kumar regulations, so we're required to offer it that way.
Well, you told somebody knows. I'm a big fan of that,
I
so.
would say, like, so in anthropology and archaeology, right, and some of the things, so climate science and earth science has been very instrumental in just understanding a lot of different things. We're looking at a satellite image of a rock and places to dig, because we've been able to look at the topography, but we also have to understand historical environments, historical climate, how that has impacted living spaces and physical objects and what that looks like. And then begin to touch on how old is this? You know, like where it's at and everything else. And so there is, and even it's also, then we will go back to earth science and then the life sciences as a nurse and a doctor in the health field, the environments that someone lives in. So I was a captain here in Baltimore City, and so I was there a lot of lead and places. And that's learning about lead and learning about the different things that are in the earth. You're going to get a lot more of that in those than necessarily the life science, but it's all ultimately integrated. You just have to silo it out.
Right. I'm just not a fan of if a student doesn't have a particular interest, forcing them to take coursework that is not aligned with their interest. If a student is not going to, especially if they're not going to pursue a particular type of career, we're forcing some of these classes. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that the requirements that we're putting. It's crazy.
So that's the one.
Well, I mean, believe me, I'm not to take testify on it. That's ridiculous.
So it is really wrong. So
It
next.
is.
Yeah.
So.
And hopefully, to your point, hopefully, although they're forced to, they take those 3 classes and get them out of the way. But there are a lot of kids who keep going, and we're able to really go deep with those levels of interest, so.
And sometimes they think they have an interest in one direction, and then we actually change it. And it's like that first year of college, it could be actually reduce that sort of switch over in college if we did a little bit more kind of get kids into something.
Right.
And
That's
understanding.
about it.
So we touched on MISA, and just to remind you, so when it's given is at the end of 5th grade, assesses 3rd to 5th, and 8th grade assesses 6th to 8th. And that makes us a little different in science. We're the only area that assesses more than one grade. Again, that's Comar, that's not us.
Right.
And then high school, we're a little different too, because biology the NISA counts as an end of course assessment. It's a graduation requirement, and it's 20% of their final grade, and that is the first time that it is really affecting the majority of our kids is this year because the biology is 10th grade. So it went into effect last year. We only had a couple dozen kids, and we consistently score above the state in our assessments, and we've been trying to drill down into our evidence statements to make sure that we are teaching the curriculum, but not too bad. And our benchmark assessments, one of the things, too, is we model our benchmark assessments off of the NISA because I want the kids to be able to show what they know on this test and not be like, oh my gosh, I've never seen this platform. So it's not perfect, but it's pretty similar in how we structure it. Because I don't want them to be like, oh, I've never seen this kind of thing. And so our platforms are pretty similar. And our benchmarks are administered in our core courses. Middle school has 1 per term, high school has them 3 per course. And this is administered, teachers administer them after the standard is taught so that it's not a big assessment at the end. And yes, just like Mrs. McLean was talking about, one of the things that we really do a lot of, and what I really enjoy is working with our teachers. We have system-wide professional learning days, so in August, we have a curricular day. We also do the new hire symposium. Just like Mr. Murphy was talking about earlier, we have about a third of our science teachers are in their first 3 years of teaching. And also in science, we have more and more of our new teachers are coming to us from the field, in science fields, and might not have the pedagogy. They're content experts, but they might not have the education background. So we're supporting them with that too. And because we want them to have nice, robust careers in further science. We're also a professional learning committee. I have one tonight. It has been great. We give an opportunity for our teachers to come together and collaborate with each other. And it fills my bucket. It is one of the best things to see all these groups of teachers from across the county working together. So I have a teacher who is teaching physics of Earth and space for the first time, and she's sitting next to a physics teacher, and they're discussing waves. It's amazing. And
You ever
then
do field trips to do your outdoor school together or do your ESSL or something like that?
yes, I'm sorry, you said field trips?
They like a field trip as a professional learning, like, hey, let's go do the outdoor school together or something. you
Well,
know?
it's interesting that you say that because on those in service days,
Yeah.
sometimes when we have like a full day in the winter, we make it like kind of conference style. We'll run field trips. You can sign up to go to AstraZeneca. The outdoor school will come and take you to Sugarloaf and review the topography and everything like that. So we build that in for professional development. We've had things where teachers can go to ESSL and the ESSL teachers will talk about astronomy and everything like that. So we are trying to leverage our teacher leaders.
Yeah, so I mean, burnout is a thing, right? And so you fill each other's bucket, right? And you
Yes.
just said it, that's something that fills your bucket. It's important.
We also try to, I'm very big on our middle and high school teachers together, learning from each other, because they're teaching the same kids. And they just learn from one another. So we run book studies and try to design it so it's 6 to 12, and it's worked out really well. We usually have half and half of middle and high, and the conversations are fantastic. I'm running a book study right now called Onward, which is building teacher resilience. And my counterpart, Carrie Copper, who is the secondary science teacher specialist, she just ran a book study on visible learning. So all kinds of different things. We have book study junkies, we call them, and they sign up for our different book studies and they receive credit for that. just that camaraderie and talking about things together and how it applies to the classroom is amazing.
Well, I would love to join one of those, so just let me know.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
Easy fun.
Yeah, and if you want to do anything of like ESSL, after school, all of that, anatomy, physiology. What we have new this year, and Carrie has been instrumental in doing this, is we have a personalized professional learning, MSTE course. I call it Choose Your Own Adventure. And it's all kinds of different things. With science, we have safety, we have science literacy. So they really get to design this one-sided experience. And they need to do so much face-to-face, so much online. Our PLCs count as some of those hours. It's been really popular. So, because we're just trying to meet our teachers where they are.
Absolutely.
Uh,
And each generation of teachers is different. So.
Yes, absolutely.
And
Yes.
different communication skills.
And another part of my work is I support sustainability efforts in our schools and green schools. So we are supporting our teachers through that. And I think I'll be coming back in a few months and talking to you more about that.
That would be great, because I've talked to Mobilize Frederick, and I've talked to, and so at Newmarket, we're working on a lot of those things, like lunch landfills, and that kind of, those programs. And we come into obstacles through a variety of things, and like be volunteers. We should be volunteers. And then some of it is principal buy-in. Like, we have a principal who would want it, but other folks I've talked to, they had a difficult time getting buy-in from their staff. So that's something that'd be interesting to talk about more, about how we can do that, how we can, because usually buy-in is usually, it's either one of two things, it's just a misunderstanding, right? It's an understanding of something. Or it could be, well, I have this obstacle I keep coming across, but I haven't told anyone about it yet because no one's asked me about it, right? So I want to know what some of those things might be so we can help support more schools, because that's going to ultimately also be an energy saver, money saver. I'd rather hire a new teacher than money saver, right? I think that's what I have to say. There you go. Perfect. Sustainability.
Yeah.
Oh, and because I used to just saw Dr. Hitt, and I want to make sure, when we talk about science and we talk about professional development, and I try to remember, and you can correct me, is it around 5th or 6th grade where girls seem to fall off of the science track a little bit somewhere in there? And we don't see as many girls interested in the science fields and so forth. So how are we addressing and making sure that we're that population, right, that we're not going to have as much of that, and then also our underserved populations who don't have maybe the resources for different. There's a lot of this, do you have a computer at home, and do you have access to transportation to go to a museum and stuff? Those sorts of things that they may not have. So make sure that they are involved in that conversation. We're not losing.
Because we're trying to make science engaging for all.
Yeah.
Engaging and accessible for all. One of the things we do is, one of our student programs is, it's at the high school level, it's Women in Science and Wise. It is a speaker series. It is open to all, but we target our females because they've been identified as an underrepresented population in science. So we bring in female professionals, and once a month we meet at the ESSL. And it's after school, you're welcome to come, and the community has been fantastic in coming, and we're exposing our students to a bunch of different careers. I've had alumni from WISE say, hey, I chose my major because we brought this one speaker in, and I didn't even know there was material science engineering and how fascinating polymers were. And then I went and I majored in that, and now I'm an engineer. And I'm like, that's amazing. We brought an emergency vet, because we have an emergency vet office here that is a female run, and she came in with a molting chicken and a very well behaved dog, and so we're doing different things. And we also, with just careers, and we have a career fair, there's all kinds of things. I'm with you, I want everyone to be interested in explore different careers.
Well, and everything that we do as a society, right, algorithms and computer, or the longest time for women's health, there was a text that was 400 years old up until about the mid to late 90s that was used. But that's all they had, right? So the history of science and how it's affected different communities. And that has, changed in what we have as data, how we interpret data, what we look at. So having that, going back, kind of dialing back, looking and trying to peel back some of these layers and understand how did we get here and what can we do to kind of mitigate these issues, right? Kind of mitigate how those systemic issues through this history and so forth. And making sure, and then how are we assessing that we are getting those kids and we're not losing, right? And that it's not, because if, the kids that are going into science, and it's the same upper middle class white, kids, that we're lucky to have, but if they're the same ones going into, we're not changing that future. Does that make sense? That's where I'm going with that. So and assessing that we're doing that, it's important, like, it's great, I love those sorts of things. I did something, they talk about NASA and the role of women in space and astronauts and how women can love a non-sensory environment and sustain that for longer than men, right? Like, all of these sorts of things. So, yeah, that's, I want to just really make sure that we're thinking about that as we're developing and
So some of the other student programs that our office runs is the Frederick County Science and Engineering Fair. Registration is open now, and we are, secondary is on the 22nd, elementary is on the 29th. We had split weekends because last year we were bursting at the seams. It was wonderful, but we had so many families, we had to run a shuttle for extra parking. So we have split this year. We invite you to come out. The excitement is amazing. And we are affiliated with the International Science and Engineering Fair. So the top 10% of our middle school projects, they are nominated to participate in the next level, which is the Thermo Fisher Junior Innovators Challenge. And then our top 2 projects from high school go on to compete in May at the International Science and Engineering Fair. And we are a small and mighty fair. About 1/3 of the students who compete in that come home with prizes, but we do a really nice job with that too. Not that winning is everything, but it's really nice to be able to go and recognize.
The trophies are shining and bright.
Yes. And we also have the high school envirothon, which we have competes in April, and it's up at Cunningham Falls State Park. We have a team from almost every high school, and they explore things with great community partners, but soil and wildlife and I'm blanking on all of them, but it is a wonderful competition, and I invite you to
Make sure that's up. Then you know all the dates. Anything I can make your job.
Outdoor School and is another student program that we're very proud of, and is very pivotal to the environmental education of our students. We serve 5th and 6th graders, and our outdoor school is a day program. Our staff, they are science teachers and bus drivers. They have their CDL, and we utilize 12 sites around the county with county and state national parks. They are out, weather permitting, almost every day, but they are not out today because our staff is out shoveling. They are out shoveling the sites so that we can safely bring the kids tomorrow. So tomorrow, in 5th grade runs through the winter, and 6th grade is in the fall and the spring because they do water quality. And it's a little chilly to be in the creek, and it's a little hard to do that, so we focus on geology in the winter. And grade 5, they have a 1.5 day experience. So they go a full day, and then they're doing half day, and we had to reduce that simply because of capacity again. And then grade 6 is a 2-day experience with water quality and the system. We just
How much of a capacity issue are you actually having with the grade 5 having reduced capacity? How, what is that from? Buses, is it teachers?
Right, we're running out of days, because just with how the county is growing. And we don't have the budget capacity right now to add a bus and teacher.
It's 3 teachers, right?
Yes,
3 teachers, 3 buses.
Yes.
Pretty much filled every day. We, just last year, had to make a reduction in grade 5 from 2 days to 1.5, simply to be able to get everybody in. So without an additional bus or an additional teacher, which is not realistic right now, we're- that helps clarify.
I guess a follow-up question to that, if you were to have a bus driver, you guys already have 5, and you have a science teacher that would teach outdoors, put on the bus and say bus driver. Could we bridge this problem? And actually give grade 5 2 full days, whatever it is?
I think the model that you're sharing would be like the classroom teacher comes from the school and joins their kids.
Yes.
It'd be a completely different model, nothing's impossible. But I don't know if that model's ever been talked about in the past. The idea of having the centralized outdoor school teachers
Right,
that know these sites throughout the county pretty well.
right. I mean, I keep hearing about this collaboration. Guys are having this type of good collaborative discussions. I wouldn't see why we couldn't bridge that gap very easily and bring in science teachers that we already have currently on staff to help fill this. We have those jobs.
Are they used to assist from them? I'm just curious, I mean, they're already there.
I mean, well, you do have your teacher already on the, class already
I
on
know,
the
but are
bus.
they already with the students at the end? Or are they still at the homeschool?
so, the 5th grade, our 5th grade teachers, they're not, they're generalists, not scientists. They're not science teachers.
Regular.
And with our science teachers in 6 to 12, we don't have a spare with that. And also the bus drivers, we still are, I don't know if we're still in a shortage, but I know we don't have
still in a
overabundance
And
of
we
that.
have a very good team.
Right.
That's a whole other.
Right, and I've heard from bus drivers about some of these issues.
Yeah, yeah.
But I appreciate your thoughts and trying to,
It's like how do we expand?
right, because we're trying to do the best for our kids.
Mhm.
And we have a really high quality program, and Brett, who is our teacher specialist for after school, is amazing and has 17 backup plans. And his priority always is to give the kids a great experience, the best we can with our constraints.
Has there ever been any partnerships with, say, Cliff College or the Park Service or the state or the National Park Service that maybe it wouldn't be an everyday sort of capacity, but to be able to do a particular program or whatever that.
The Park Service is amazing. And of all of the National Park Service, the state, the county parks, and Cotton Rock is great for us too, because tomorrow is going to be a very cold and windy day, because we also want the kids to go to outdoor school. We want them to remember it fondly, not, oh my gosh, it was so cold.
Exactly.
So we are
Yeah.
balancing that, and getting them out, and they open the buildings for us, and they're in that group. So we have wonderful partnerships with them. We would not be able to have such a robust program. We also, National Park Service works with elementary school with 4th grade, because they get the passes the National Park. So if you're planning a cross-country trip, 4th grade is great.
I would be curious to see if there would be any type of solutions that we could come up with to try and bridge that gap, because I would like to see the grade 5 kids have that whole set that we have to be able to figure that out to get it before historically. We need to really try to get it out that second. I think that's incredibly important. I remember fondly in 5th grade, we had a wonderful outdoor school. Gosh, I can't even remember gentleman's name, but wonderful, wonderful, and I think that that's absolutely okay. To see. So I'd like to see us try to.
My kids,
Sorry, Jamie, missed that.
no, sorry, I was gonna say my kids both really enjoyed outdoor school. Great program. My only sadness is I grew up in Carroll County and they have the week-long outdoor school at Camp Joshua with the overnights, and that was super special too. So it's too bad we don't have that option, but the kids loved outdoor school, so it's a great program.
Well, benefit from the experience working with the Park Service in some way, right? Like, so instead it wouldn't be outdoor school, they'd be there for, making sure that the curriculum is being done, but not necessarily. But I don't know, again, it's a creative things. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate the push on that. And I think most middle school kids that we talk to, they say that like you, the outdoor school is like one of the things that just stands out. They always remember. I think, for us, in terms of capacity, these innovative solutions, the partnerships, the people, absolutely. We'll come back to you with what we think are some good ideas or viable ideas, because the one thing that we have to remember is that over the last decade, our enrollment has gone up so much, and the staffing has pretty much stayed flat.
Yeah.
So we're at that moment as a district in programs like the outdoor school or the ESSO where you gain 10,000 kids over a decade, but the staffing's pretty much stayed stable.
Right.
So it's forcing us to look at new solutions, and so we're happy to continue mapping those out and come back to you.
Anything that makes that, for that pencil.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
right.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a very resource-rich area. We have a lot of various, governmental and private partnership opportunities here. I think that, we need to look at utilizing some of them to try to augment to be able to get our kids here at CPS a full experience well.
So this is your chance to ask any more questions, or if Mr. Mayor wants to chime in.
During the thing. But I.
That works.
But yeah, there, talking about going back to the idea of application, right? Like, so science of, reading, science of writing, all of that, and how it's being integrated. I guess for me, when I first saw that schedule and the change in the schedule with social studies and science for elementary school, I'm like, I really need my kids to be back interested in school again. More math and more writing isn't doing it. The science and social studies does it. I got a kid who loves history, and another kid who just loves, like, whether it's the outdoor school or whatever new sciencey thing they're learning, he's all about it. And there's so many rich opportunities for augmenting reading, writing, and math within social studies. So it's like, how can, and some of it is, at least what I'm gathering from today particularly, is a rollout of curriculum, right? So as we have new COMAR regulations and we have the blueprint and we have, so rolling that out into what does that look like for curriculum for students, right? So that is part of just figuring things out as well. It's not going to stay that way forever, right? The idea is to get it back to an everyday situation, right? In terms of science and social studies or elementary. And then, of course, I always go back to that completing question. My father had polio, he couldn't walk, and he struggled so much with folks who just considered him to be stupid. It's like, my brain works just fine. I just can't walk, He was born in 1941, so there was not a vaccine. He contracted polio. So I still have some of he still tried to fly to NASA, and he kept his, the letter that they sent and said, sorry, that's not gonna work out, But it's important that, that was a kid who on a farm, and they didn't have indoor plumbing, it was poor. They went down to the lake to get their milk from it was like old school that way, right? And the only reason he even went down the path of science and school and education is because he had polio. He wasn't going to be farming, right? That wasn't going to happen for him. Had to have that access, and he had two parents willing to put that in front of him every day. They got extra jobs, went to Detroit during the auto worker strike to, make sure that he could get a TV in the house, right? He could pull apart radios. So what can we do for our kids to make sure that they're not missing out? It's even our special ed kids, right? That making sure that they're not missing out on ethical opportunities. Because once they leave high school, where are they going to go after that, right? Whether it's CTC or professional development or college, and just getting kids to really see how many possibilities there are in the world for them. And we focus so much on just the bits and pieces of it, right? Like the day to day, but it's part of a larger picture. So, yeah, that's a piece that always like concerned me. I want to make sure that in the conversation about algorithms, AI loves science, yay, that's because it was programmed to say this to somebody when they ask the question, right? When someone is programming Google, hey, you do hate it when people try to Google diagnose themselves, but they do, right? So, who is putting all that information in? What is the information saying? The historical information that we have that is so skewed, which is this historical sexism, racism, all of these different things. Medicines that were only trialed on men because they could control the variables, but they don't work the same on women, which is why women wake up during surgery more often, right? This is why it's important that somebody was like false discipline, and also why we definitely need equity in all of these areas.
You're in good company.
Yeah, I hope so, right? But also, how can I support in doing that, right? It's not just me saying, I want to see more of that. It's like, how can I support? What are things that I need to understand better so I can better support those sorts of things? And anything else, any other questions or things that you want to make sure that we understand a little better?
So we've tried to queue up for you, we think it's, information that you board members and new board members, want to know, and certainly ask you questions about, and feedback from you all. These budgetary challenges are real, these capacity challenges are real, so hearing, some of your feedback and some of the things that we elevate when we have the conversation, it's an important time for us to be able to have these conversations with you all. Share our board meeting, so.
Yeah, and it helps illuminate those discussions about staffing and everything, and where people go, and what that means in the schools. Having that literacy specialist there.
Yes, having the focus on our core, curriculum is absolutely important. We need to make sure that we're integrated, because I do feel the elementary kids are really missing out on the science and social studies. I mean, just a lack of basic knowledge of some of our documents, scientific principles, things of that nature, scientific method. I mean, all these very elementary things that I can say, I remember in elementary school. I don't see the kids getting them. That's a problem.
And there's an information literacy too, just they get so much information on their phones,
Sure.
the parents do, and computers, there's so much there. They don't always know how to process that, right? And how to sort what has authority and what has authoritative resources, which is all in science. That's what we're constantly,
Yes.
is it over 5 years old, or is it, and in context, right? So, that kind of thing. So, but it's an exciting time at the same time. Yes, we do have these constraints, right? We have to work through those year to year, but there's so much happening, just in developments and our kids, and, I love our kids, and you guys get to obviously. It's always something exciting. All right.
Okay,
Anything else?
one thing, you want to do the calendar?
Oh, yeah, the calendar.
Typically, in each meeting, we'll just look ahead to the
Yeah,
next
make sure.
months.
So, we have our, next meeting on February 12th.
Yeah.
And we're continuing with pillar 3 of the blueprint, with mathematics, social studies, with our Dr. Bernard. And then we will also have our FCASC, the Department of County Association Student Houses update, which is also Dr. Bernard. So that is our, yeah, we'll be here to cover her. And from our math folks, we have Debbie Myers, they're elementary and primary, yes. And so then, that is our next, February 12th, our next CNI. And then in March, we're gonna, move into the proposed courses that we discussed. And then we'll hear from our supervisors on what kind of education program. And so that is
just an expansion, right? You have 2 new teachers this year.
So you will be hearing all about our elementary program, really the next 2 sessions.
Yeah.
So, and we're looking forward to just more time together, having conversations about best ways to.
I love it. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you. And then this year,
We just need a motion to close the meeting.
Yes.
Yes, so I have a motion to close the meeting. Second that motion.
Awesome.
There we go.